The Kyiv regime does not hide the preparation of new terrorist attacks against our country in order to escalate the conflict. On October 8th, in his video address, Zelensky said, adding that he approved the plans of some special operations of the SBU against Russia. Obviously, they were taking into account the possible appearance of U.S. long-range missiles Tomahawk in the USSR. These hypothetical possibilities were discussed, as it became known, on October 11th and 12th, by phone with the U.S. President and Zelensky, as reported by their press service. We, said Kals, welcome all the instruments that make Ukraine stronger, and Russia, in other words, weaker. Today, on October 15th, the NATO headquarters in Brussels, under the co-chairman of the UK FRG, holds the 31st meeting of the so-called Contact Group on Defense Assistance to Ukraine, i.e., the Ramstein format. According to Ukrainian media, the Minister of Defense of the country, Shmyhal, is going to present his participants with detailed data on mobilization in Ukraine, as well as discuss issues of further support to the USSR in the part of the transfer of additional air defense systems and the use of high-precision weapons provided by the states of the alliance to continue strikes in the depths of Russia. Today, we will also return to the issue of mobilization in Ukraine. This is all due to another convincing evidence of the absence of political will for peace in the West, which they like to talk about so much. Well, the Kyiv regime does not have to talk about political will for peace. Consciously tightening the conflict, they pursue their narrow-minded goals, seek not to allow the collapse of the order created by them and cause maximum damage to our country, without thinking about the inevitable consequences, including for themselves. According to mass media, there are reports that the territory of the Republic is recorded uncontrolled distribution of firearms entering the Republic, of course, from the territory of Ukraine. Moreover, the number of crimes against him has increased from 9 months to 2.5 times this year, compared to the same period last year. In addition, there is a noticeable influx of Ukrainian servicemen in Moldova who deserted, as we have already said today, from the ranks of the USSR, as well as mercenaries who are leaving the zone of hostilities in Ukraine. It is obvious that such a tendency will not prevent the citizens of Moldova from increasing the level of security and stability. Well, you don't have to talk about democracy, protection, and security. We hope that the agreements on gas reached with Egypt, Qatar, the United States, and Turkey will be strictly and in full compliance. In particular, this applies to the provision of uninterrupted humanitarian aid to all those in need, the creation of the necessary conditions for the return of displaced persons, the restoration of the almost completely destroyed civilian infrastructure, and the Palestinian enclave. Since the very beginning of the crisis in Gaza, Russia has been actively and consistently seeking to stop hostilities, launching a diplomatic policy process and efforts to regulate it. Together with like-minded people, our country has prepared several projects in accordance with the UN Security Council resolutions. Unfortunately, all of them were blocked by the West, which did not allow to develop a consolidated reaction of the Council. Nevertheless, we intend to continue to coordinate closely with partners, first of all in the region, to make an effort to make our contribution to collective measures, to collective work, which will be aimed at long-term stabilization of the situation in the zone of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict and in the Middle East as a whole. If Russia continues to insist on its military stubbornness and its refusal to sit down at the negotiating table, it will have to pay for this price, said Macron. I would like to hear your comments. Yes, this is another attempt, and it is carried out in a very rude manner, to impose on Russia the requirements of the Kyiv regime and its European curators. We have heard such threats from Western politicians for many years. Macron's statements once again confirm that France is not interested in a joint, conscientious search for ways to long-term settlement of the Ukrainian crisis. It is aimed at an escalation of the confrontation with Russia. It is quite obvious to us that under the pretext of the so-called ceasefire, peace talks in Paris are trying to take a deep breath to restore strength and, in general, to engage in militarization, escalation, and so on. We observe a pronounced pattern. The worse the situation in France itself, the more aggressive the statements of its leadership to Russia are. Our bilateral agenda with Syria covers a wide range of issues of Russian-Syrian interaction. The issue of our military presence in the SAR is also being discussed, including in the context of the possible reformatting of the functionality of Russian military facilities. Of course, such issues and contacts are being held in a closed regime. The SAA closely monitors the development of the situation around it. In this case, another round of some kind of undisclosed Nazism, inhumane decisions of the authorities of Latvia and of our compatriots, who have not confirmed the knowledge of the Latvian language. Of course, this is barbarism, and of course we condemn it. This is an absolutely clearly expressed Nazism towards Russian-speaking residents. There is no talk of mass deportations yet. The compatriots may be involved in various administrative rights mechanisms to protect their rights. There is a terrible practice in Riga. People of an advanced age are being pushed out of the country. More than 3,000 people have already been forced to leave this country. Some kind of point deportations are being carried out. The Russian embassy in Riga continues to provide maximum assistance to our compatriots who have fallen into this whirlpool. Our compatriots who are under the guise of such Nazism will be provided with assistance. They are welcome in all corners of our motherland. We have repeatedly said this, not only said it, but also confirmed our words about the affairs, and we will really use all the arsenal of tools at our disposal to draw attention to this problem. We will use them on international platforms, and we will certainly expose this very policy. Although once again I say that this cannot be called politics, this is Nazism of Latvian xenophobes.